everyone, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name is Jason and yes, it's Table Talk Day, formerly known as Saturday. Hello, a big warm welcome. Nice to see you all. Yes, the jumper's back. I've got a week's annual leave and that means we've had no sunshine. But actually, it's not been too bad. We'll talk all about that in a moment. First of all, first things first, as always, a big warm welcome to you all, especially if you're one of my many new subscribers. Welcome to the Model Kit Stuff family. We're getting on to nearly 5 years of doing this, and it's been such a good time. It's been such a laugh. I've enjoyed doing this immensely, and it's all because of you guys. Whether you're silent subscribers that watch the things you're interested in from time to time, whether you're an avid subscriber that watches most things and catches up with Table Talk each week, or indeed a member and part of the social group where we talk about all sorts of stuff, not just modelling, then it's absolutely a big thank you from me for the continued support I get. I get lovely messages from people every week, and I have met some really fascinating people through this, from Stephen Payne, the ship designer. I mean, how fascinating is that? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have met Stephen without the channel. To model ship designer Chris Watton, really interesting chap who's making, for me, some of the best wooden model kits money can buy. And then a whole spectrum of model builders in between that. People with different interests, aircraft, vehicles, people that like to build, people that you know, buildings are pain that they have to get through so they can do their joy of painting. We're all different. There's a huge spectrum of people out there. And I've always on this channel sort of loosely catered for everybody. Principally, I'm a model ship builder. I've pretty much always been a model ship builder principally. I've had periods where I haven't built model ships and I've focused on other things, but ships have always been a love of mine due to my family's connections with the Royal Navy. During before the Second World War, they were career Navy, not recruited for the war. So yeah, it's always been a fascination, but we do a bit of everything. Right now we're very ship heavy, and I know that, and what I'm gonna say to you all is, when we've got through this ship heavy period, we will be doing some more stuff. So we've got an aircraft coming back, we've got a tank coming and going along, we've got 50th anniversary of Space 1999 coming along, and then who knows where we go from there. Depends on what I'm feeling at the time. There's one or two people, mentioning no names, Peter, who might like me to build that new tool Airfix Jag, which could be interesting. I've not built a jet aircraft on the channel before, so who knows. I've got a bulldozer that keeps nagging at me. I've got a diorama plan that is in August will be a plan that's been existing for 5 years and I've done nothing with it, based around the FAMO tank transporter and a German street, based on a photograph that I've got. So there's lots of different things coming along that aren't ship related, but ships are always going to be here. There's always going to be a ship build on here, there's always going to be a plastic ship build on here, even if it's not the big main build like the Scharnhorst is. And we're always going to have a wooden ship build on here of some type. and I have several in my stash, and most of you know, I think, that we have a plan. So Sherborne, and then progressing through another 3 Vanguard builds to deliver people who have never built wooden model ships before and get them to a point where they would feel comfortable to pretty much tackle anything they wanted, which I think for most people it's the fear of the unknown. You know, a lot of us started doing plastic modelling when we were young because our parents or our grandparents or our uncles got us involved in it, and there was someone there that could show you how to do things. So when you start out on a venture like building a wooden model ship and you've got no one there to show you what to do, it can be a bit off-putting, and you need to do a combination of have the right support to get there and be building the right kit, and that's what the Absolute Beginners series is all about. Building kits that are aimed at novice and beginner builders, which don't have complexity but do have the various different elements of the build so that you can learn the techniques, build your confidence, and then go and stride out and go and build HMS Victory from Caldercraft at £1,000 and think, you know what, at least I know I won't have wasted that money because I can do it. It might take me 3 years, but I can do it. So what? You know, it's never a race, and wooden ship modelling is quite different to plastic modelling. It's more relaxing for a start, but your gains aren't instant gains. You have to break it down. And I said, I think it might have been last week even, you know, the smaller models can be a bit more rewarding because you get through the various different elements that much more quickly. You get the planking done more quickly, you get the rigging done more quickly, cannons, less of them, so you do it more quickly. So the rewards are there, which is what you need. If you go and get yourself a big ship and then go and tackle it, and you know, the number of people I know that have started off and bitten off completely the wrong thing and never finished chewing, and it's, you know, I spent a lot of money on it, 300 quid, and I don't want to say I've wasted it, so it just sits there collecting dust, never getting done, and you know, that's a mistake. So build a little ship like the Sherborne, like the Lady Eleanor that we're going to build next. That Lady Eleanor, it's another complete novice kit. It'd be nice and easy to build, less rigging, no cannons, so I know it doesn't appeal to everybody, but we can have a little bit of fun. So Sherborne we've built very much out of the box, using the materials supplied, plus 1 or 2 bits that we've added to get the build just right for a beginner. It's very difficult. Don't underestimate how difficult it is to build something when you've got some experience, and I'm not the best wooden ship modeler in the world. I'm just, you know, an enthusiast that's got enough knowledge to get someone from never done it through a few kits. I can do that. I wouldn't want to say I'm a master at it because I'm absolutely not. I make mistakes. I've made mistakes on Sherborne and go, why have I done that? So, you know, I'm not infallible, and I'm not saying that I'm even an expert, but I have enough knowledge to get you guys who've not done it before where you need to be. And when you do something like for an absolute beginner's build, trying to think back to how things were when you first did it and recreate those mistakes and those learnings so that you can share them, it's quite tricky because your experience has already moved you on and you've forgotten about, you know, those learnings, because it's almost like muscle memory. You know what you're doing. So it has been challenging at times to think through what we can do, but I've done my best. This week I've added the shrouds onto Sherborne and started the rat lines, and so here we've got an example of 2 different knots you can do for rat lines, which we've done. So it's all about sort of showing you things and helping you do that. And I've seen some really spectacular builds from people who've never built a wooden model ship before, and I'm proud as punch that people are pushing on with it and getting there, because once you've got past that ship planking and you're doing all the little deck fittings and things, suddenly it becomes really rewarding, and that's when you're bought into it, and you know you're enjoying it, and you've got another string to your modelling bow. And that's what model kit stuff is all about, me sharing my hobby so other people can learn how to do things or how not to do things. You know, it's always been warts and all, and just enjoy it. I mean, there are people that watch the channel and will message me and say, I don't build model ships, but I enjoy watching other people build them, you know. And there's, you know, someone said that to me last week or the week before, but I hear that fairly regularly. And then I have shipbuilders that follow the channel because they like building ships, but they will watch me build a tank or an aeroplane and go, it's not my thing, but that was quite interesting. So there's always stuff to learn, isn't there? And we keep a nice eclectic mix. Now, we have something very special to talk about. You can see it there. A very, very rare kit. We will be talking about it in a minute. Let's see. We've changed the format, so I have to think a little bit. I've been on holiday this week, so things that used to be in news we're going to do at the front end. I'm jumping around, sorry. I've been on holiday this week. I'm recording this Wednesday morning, so I'm eating into my modelling time. I'm having desk day today. But you know, it's been a bit wet and miserable, but actually it's not been so bad, because my holiday really started Saturday morning. Went off. Most of you know I live in Lancashire, in a little village right next door to Leyland, the home of Leyland Trucks, that was, so just slightly south of Preston, and we went over to sort of the Burnley area. We're members of the National Trust, and I'm always wary that we've got to do a set number of visits to warrant the money. So what we did is we found a place with a couple of National Trust places that we've never been to before. It was only about an hour and a quarter away for us. Booked ourselves a Premier Inn, which, if you're not in the UK, is one of the budget brands of hotels. But I upgraded the room. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, we had Saturday was a nice day. So Saturday we went to a place and did it was gardens. A little underwhelming. A lot of it was under construction and there wasn't much in the way of flowering, but the landscaping was nice. The weather was nice. We had a wander. We had a spot of lunch. We enjoyed the sunshine. Did a bit of people watching, which is always entertaining, seeing the families. And the National Trust, because it's Easter week, we're doing an Easter egg hunt. So you had to get you have to go through various different things and find things in certain activities, cross them off on the sheet, and then they give you a chocolate egg. So I don't know whether you had to pay for it. I guess you did, but to do that, you also got a set of cardboard bunny ears on a little hat, and you know, these are given to the kids. The kids put them on, and kids aren't stupid. You know, they wear them for 5 minutes and they go, hang on, this is uncomfortable, I don't like it. So they take it off. But it can't go in the bin, because it's like, you know, it's like a present. They really want it. They just don't want it on their head. So Paula and I, we were laughing our socks off at almost every single family that had little kids that were doing the Easter egg hunt. They were walking around with cardboard ears on their heads. All the adults had the cardboard ears on, none of the children. It was so funny. Then we went to our hotel, and the hotel was next to a pub that had the highest star rating for food in the local area, within sort of 10 miles or so. So we went there for food. Food was really nice, actually. Nice when you find a pub that's not part of a chain and is doing home cooked food. So much better. I'm a bit fussy about food because you know, having been a butcher and being a bit of a foodie, not that you can tell, but yeah, I'm a bit fussy, and I don't go into sort of some of these big chains where it's frozen food that they shove in a microwave, and I don't really like processed food anyway, so they were doing home cooked food, so that was nice. But the hotel we stayed at is fairly new, and some of the newer Premier Inns have the ability to upgrade the room. Well, it was quite cheap for the two of us to book it, so I paid for the upgrade, which wasn't very much. Well, it was absolutely worth every penny. So for those of you that have ever stayed in a Premier Inn, and you know you get standard room, we quite like them because they're always clean and they're always well presented, and it's just a base, so it does what we need. But with the upgrade, you firstly you were in upstairs on the top floor on the furthest corner away from everybody else, so you've got the quietest part of the hotel. Secondly, you walk through the fire door into your bit of the corridor where all the upgraded rooms were, and there were 6 or 8 of them maybe. You've got a different plusher carpet. There's a little thing up in the corner that's squirting a nice smell into the corridor. So you're not smelling other people's sweaty socks like you quite often do. So that was, you know, a gimmick, but it was nice. Then we went into the room, and the room's got different furniture and presented a bit better. Had a mini fridge with some waters in that were free. Had a coffee maker, you know, pod coffee maker, which was nice. Better lighting, better furniture, bigger telly. So it was all very nice, but the main upgrade was the bathroom. So rather than having a bath you've got to stride into and one shower head that you know doesn't sit in the right position and all of that sort of stuff, had a lovely bathroom, walk-in shower, double shower heads, in multiple mood lighting. It was just a complete upgrade. And for the money, it was worth it. And we both said when we left, we'd definitely do it again. So we enjoyed it was only an overnight stay. Next day, we went to a National Trust property, and yeah, it was really nice. We'd not been there before. Nice gardens, nice grounds, park walk. House was really interesting. The clockmaker that worked out how to do latitude for ships, so you could tell time. He had one of his clocks there. There was only rare because he only made about 10 or 12, and there's not many surviving. And they're made of wood. All the mechanisms made of wood. So yeah, we had a nice time. So yeah, very very nice weekend to start the week. Then Monday we had planned to go to another National Trust property with Alice and Daisy. But I picked Alice up from her mum's. There'd been a truck on fire on the motorway. I was stuck navigating around the M6 to get home. A 45 minute took me best part of 3 hours. So I was pretty annoyed. Didn't fancy going back down the M6 to try and come back up it again later that day. So we went clothes shopping, ready for our holiday in Italy in May. So we got pretty much everything we need. A couple of t-shirts left to get for Alice, but otherwise we're done. So that was good. So yeah, had a nice, if you can call it that, nice time doing a bit of clothes shopping. Glad to say that Paula and my girls all hate clothes shopping as well. So we're not spending hours looking at things and then going back and buying the first thing they saw. It's that'll do, let's go. So it works for me really well because they're in the same mind frame as me. But we got some clothes, I got some new stuff, and we're all sort of sorted and ready to go. From that point of view, we need to just draw up a checklist and make sure we've not forgotten everything. Book the hotel at the airport, so that'll be good. So yeah, we're all sorted. And then Tuesday, which was yesterday, we went to Little Morton Hall, which is a National Trust property in Congleton, which is not far from where my dad lives. So we're able to go there, then go and visit my dad. I don't see my dad particularly often because he's, you know, a little way away and life's busy and so on. So that was a good day. I'd not been to Little Moulton Hall for about 25 years. It's not changed much because it's Tudor. It's Elizabeth I, really, in origin. Beautiful house, untouched, because nobody really wanted it, so it never got upgraded. So a lot of Tudor properties get built on and upgraded and turned into something grander by next generations. This lot went broke, didn't have the money to do anything with it, and then rented it out to tenant farmers who probably at the time thought, I've got to live in this old hovel, because it wasn't modern in any way. But it now has left the National Trust with something that is one of the most original Tudor properties in the country, and it's absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. Really nice. Not a straight line on it. Everything's crooked. So anyway, that's the last few days. I'm still on holiday, but the rest of the holiday is a little bit more hobby time focused. So here's a few pictures of the holidays, and then we'll get on with what happened last week on the channel. So there you go. Before we get on with what happened last thing on the channel, there's nothing really to show you in the garden. Everything is as it was, just a bit taller, so that's all good. The fact that we're getting some rain now is going to be helpful after all the sunshine. Should help things spring along. We're going to do Q&A a little bit later on, so we'll be coming back to that. But before we do all of that and talk about stash ads and things, we're going to just go and revisit what videos we had last week. So Monday we started the week with the little mitre block, the little cutting tool. I have now glued that little metal strip in and it's much better. Some people were suggesting you needed it for measuring, but for me your cutting point is always 0.0, and so you're always measuring from your cutting point, so for me it shouldn't move. I'm not sure I quite understood. I mean, several people said no, it should move because, don't know. I want it not to move, and it doesn't move anymore, so suits me. You know, for a £5, handy little tool. So yeah, short video on Monday. Wednesday we did Sherborne, and we were looking at the mast. Have been doing some work on Sherborne. I'm not going to show you Sherborne this week. We put the shrouds on, and we've started doing the rat lines. But what happens with the rat lines is it's a bit like doing individual track links, and you do a few and then you go, oh, I'm fed up with this. So I'm going to break it up and do a bit, then put another line on, then do a few more, and then do another line until it's done. So finishing the rat lines might be the last thing we do. So we're right near the end of the build. I'm not going to show you anymore now until we do the final reveal, so not getting it down today. But we're nearly there. If you're in the social group, I will continue to share some update photos until we get to final reveal. I will then do a final reveal video, which will be for members only, until such time as we complete the build videos, and then we'll release that to everybody else at the end of completion of the build series for the Sherborne, by which time I'll already be on Lady Eleanor, and the social group will have seen some progress on that. So yeah, so that was Wednesday. Friday was Sherborne again, because I don't have enough material on the other stuff. Now I have a build going on in the background that none of the subscribers know about. The members do, and I've not really been sharing progress. When it's finished, it's going to be around about somewhere between 43, 47 videos, all fairly short, sort of 20 minutes to half an hour. And my plan is to release them all one day at a time in succession. So 45 days solid, one video every day, in addition to other videos that might be going out on those days anyway. And so you'll just get a video every day until it's completed. Now, one or two members will know what I'm talking about. Please don't spoil it in the comments, but I am on instruction book 2 and about halfway through instruction book 2. I'm dipping in and out of it. There's no rush. I've got no time frame when I want to have it done by. So when it's done, I will load the videos up, and when the videos are all loaded up, I'll start switching them on one day at a time, and we'll perhaps put them out in the evenings or something as way of a change. So I've got that going on in the background, but I want to keep that as a surprise because it's a little bit off-piste for the usual stuff that we do on here. So yeah, so keep in touch with Table Talk, and I'll let you know when that's happening. So we did double Sherborne this week, doing some more on the Friday. Having done the mast, I think, off the top of my head, because I've not edited it yet, I think I did the booms next, I seem to recall. And then I did the spars. Yeah. And then we fitted it all in. I think I had one or two other bits to do, I can't remember, but I think it's booms next, which you would have seen last night. So, okay, that's where we are with Sherborne. That's where we're up to last night. Let's have a talk about what happened on the bench. Well, on the bench, not much has happened. I've already talked about adding the shrouds and starting the rat lines on the Sherborne. It's been a little while since I've done it, so I've had to sort of refresh my memory. And it's one of those areas that people get a little bit worried about, and rightly so. It's very easy to get it wrong. You can over tighten the rat lines and pinch your shrouds in. It's difficult to get your dead eyes perfectly lined. There's all sorts of things, and I'm gonna show you some of those things. Like I say, I'm not necessarily an expert myself, and when I do these videos I show you my way of doing things. So I do get people from time to time saying, well, I wouldn't do it this way, or, you know, I do this. Well, yeah, this is for absolute beginners. So I'm showing you very, very basic stuff. And in the next one, we'll build on some of those skills. So, for example, when we're doing our lines, I've not really talked about waxing them, but I do wax them, and we'll talk about waxing them on the next build. But when most people wax thread, well, I'll show you what they do. I'm gonna see, this is all unscripted and all unplanned, and the benefit of that is I don't know where it's going, in the same way as you don't know what's going to happen. So most people, when they wax their line, let's just deal with why they do that. And this is handy for modelers of all types, not just wooden ship modelers. If you're dealing with threads on a model, whether it be on a truck as a winch line, or cables and things like that on a diorama, if you wax your thread just by running it through your thumb and the wax like that a couple of times, it reduces the fluffiness and makes it sharper. So that's what I've just done there, is what most people do when they're waxing the thread. And with thinner threads, it has the ability to add a little bit of stiffening properties. And someone said that I should do that on one of my lines. Well, I'm going to do it slightly differently on one of my lines. I've not done it yet. I'm going to show you when we're doing the final touch-ups and presenting the model what we're going to do, because it's slightly different. The downside is it can leave waxy deposits, and when you've got your magnifying glasses on, you can really see them. You see all these crusty little wax things. So most people just do that, but actually what you need to do when you've done that is you need to sort of give it a little bit of a rub. Now what I do is I warm my hands up. It's quite cold today, I've actually got my radiator on. Warm my hands up and just run it through a few times. Now what that does is it slightly warms up the wax, making it a little bit softer, and all of those little crusty little bits you get rid of. So you've still got the wax properties making it not fluffy, but you've not got all those waxy deposits. So the other thing you can do is you can slightly warm the wax up, put it in your hand and what have you. But I find doing it this way works well. Now I know one or two people actually rub it with a cloth, you know. I find you don't need to do that. Just rub it through your hands a few times and that is done. Now, I've never seen anyone do it this way, certainly on YouTube videos. I think I might have seen a guy do it with a rag, but that's the way to do it. So, you know, when people are saying, oh yeah, you should do this, you know, I know this stuff. I know the theories. Sometimes I've not done them myself, or I'm not very good at doing them, so I'm not going to share them until I am good at doing them. But I do know these things, but it's an absolute beginner's build, so I'm not going to show you how to do really complex stuff that's just going to prolong the build and over complex people who have never done it before. So we're just building the first two builds largely out of the box. Now the second build, the Lady Eleanor, we're going to just explore it a little bit more deeply and start looking at finishes and improving the finish and making the kit your own and going a bit beyond just the kit supplied. That the kit supplied is your sort of ground zero, that's your start point, but you can go beyond it. So we'll start that process. We'll also show you some other tips and techniques and things for some of the stuff we've done in the first build. So I do appreciate people's comments, and I know people are only trying to be helpful, but do keep in mind that for absolute beginners means I'm not going to be showing, you know, really complex techniques until we get a little bit further on. And in my experience, you don't really need a lot of them. You don't really need power tools. We will be showing power tools. You know, we will be using the lathe. We'll be using my keel clamp. We will be using disc sanders. You know, as we progress, we'll be doing all that, but you don't really need to. You can do it with basic hand tools. And in a way, it's a little bit more of an authentic, relaxed build when you're doing that. But we are going to progress through some of that stuff as we go. Okay, I think we went off on another tangent there. We were on what we got up to on the bench. Well, because it's been holidays and we've been out doing some day trips and stuff, not so much on the modelling front, so I've not got much to show you. When we switch the cameras off, we're cracking on with this. We're going to finish it this week, but when it's done, that'll be really nice, and we can get the videos come back, show you where you get to with this. So I'm fairly confident I can get that done before I go back to work next Tuesday. Anyway, right, that's that, and that's bench. So let's do stash ads, because I know you all want to talk about that. Right then, stash ads. Look at this. This is possibly one of the rarer ship kits you can get from Airfix, or can't get from Airfix currently. So HMS prints, and it goes for a princely sum these days. This is the first one I've seen in about 7 or 8 years on eBay under £100. Yeah. So I got this under £100 and I was astonished. I'm not saying I got a good price though. I mean, if you've got a box there with some plastic parts in, some plastic sails, and hopefully a bit of thread and some flags. What I paid was silly money. But if you're passionate about this kit, that's what you have to do, because most people who've got this don't want to let it go, because it's blingerama on the back end. I mean, look at that. That's why people want it. So it's unlike the Endeavour bark, where, you know, it's just a boring old wood ship really. You'll see loads of those because people buy them and go, yeah, I've got something more exciting, and so I'll let that one go. So there's tons of those, and they exchange for like 20 quid or something, and you know, these people don't let them go, so they're much harder to get hold of. So when you see one, you've got to really have a conversation with yourself about how much you want it. Now, I want to do a first impressions of this like you wouldn't believe. I think this will, you know, this will easily do several thousand views over a month of people looking at this, because everybody loves a ship, even if they don't know the history, loves a ship with bling. Everybody does. So this one I'm not actually keeping. So I bought this because I've been looking for it for ages, but I'm actually and one of the good friend of the channel and one of the moderators, he's been after this for a long time and kept mentioning, you know, if anyone ever finds a prince and so on. So I bought it knowing that either I could keep it to build it myself one day, or I could pass it on to someone that I know really, really wants it. So that's what I've done. We've actually already organised it, so this will be going his way when I've done the first impressions, which I hope to do this week while I've got a bit of time, and then I can send that out. So yeah, it's absolutely stunning and as rare as hen's teeth. So yeah, a lovely ship. Comes with everything you need in the box to complete it. Inside, it's in much better condition than the box is. The box has been stored, it's a bit worn on the corners and what have you. But yeah, it's actually fundamentally in good condition. I'm going to repack it before I send it on, after I've done the first impressions, and protect the parts a little better than they are. But yeah. Now, plastic tall ships, they can be a mixed bag. You've got to deal with things that you don't have to deal with on wooden ships, like, you know, you've got ejector pin marks and that sort of stuff. But the advantage is you can build them up a lot quicker. And you can go to town on the rigging if you want. You can keep it basic. A lot of people put effort into scratch building and upgrading and what have you. Depends on the scale. This is all going to be about the painting and the presentation. So whether you use the sails or not, it will look pretty stunning. And yeah, it's a nice era of ships when they're all blingy. In the Edwardian times, they get a lot less ostentatious, which is a real shame. But yeah, so very, very nice. So, you know, if you like things like the Vasa, you would love this this kit. So we will be filming a first impressions, and we'll bump it up the plan so that it goes out sooner rather than later. But yeah, all very nice. I still haven't quite worked out. It seems to have, if you notice, it's got some holes in the sails. So I think she's actually in a fight, because if you look closely, you'll see, where are we? There, that one of the lanterns has been blown apart. Lovely, lovely, lovely artwork. Well, there you go. HMS Prince. It's not a stash ad because it's not staying, but it will be on the channel forever, and I will be able to say, yes, I've had one, I've looked at it, and I know it's going to a really good home, and I know that I will see it when it get built up and when it's all finished, and I know the person that's going to build it will do a really fantastic job, because they're very invested in it. So yeah, really, really nice. One of the better ship kits that Airfix did, and I really love them to bring it back, to be honest. I don't know why they don't, but yeah, bristling with guns because it's a 3-decker. What's not to like? So there you go. That's stash ads. It's not the only thing that have been added in stash ads, but we'll talk about that more next week when we've got some more time. What I have done though is I have used some of my flying hours for Airfix. So Airfix released, my members have been guessing for about a week now what it is, because I just posted a little picture. Oh, I wonder what I'm getting, and it was the address of the flying hours. So Airfix should have received that yesterday, possibly in the post, or maybe today, because I sent it second class. I'm in no rush. But you remember we did the refueler kit, first impressions, in 1/48 scale. Nice little truck. Well, I bought, to go with it, a Mark 1 Hurricane. So 1/48 scale, obviously, and comes with a couple of markings. And I thought this would be really, really nice to go with that, and we could do a little diorama. So just need some figures. Well, this week, wouldn't you believe it, Airfix released 1/48 Ground Crew. So fairly cheap kit, but 10 figures plus equipment and chocks and stuff like that. So I thought, well, you know what, I'll use my flying hours. So I've gone and ordered that one for free. So that should turn up in the next week or so, I would think. Not heard from them, so they're not rung me to take my money yet. So we will see, because you have to pay for delivery of it. But yeah, there you go. So other stuff in the stash ads, I'll show you that when it turns up. Right then, that's it for stash ads. I guess we're on Q&A. Right then, time for a bit of Q&A. So carrying on from where we left off last week, let's see where we're up to. Okay, so Rusty K5N says, Great table talk as usual. Thank you very much. I would like to know more about working with photo etch and resin items. My experience with them, you could fit on the tip of a needle. Well, what I'd say is currently, have a look at the Scharnhorst build. We are working with both resin and photo etch on that, and there's a lot more of that to come. But I'm fairly sure I did a how to work with photo etch video or videos. I think I did a little mini series of them 2-3 years ago. So go onto my main page, go on, have a look at the different playlists. I think it's in tips or something like that, and just click on the playlist, and then you'll see all the videos. Have a look, see if there's something in there that might be helpful for you. Working with resin, it's just like working with plastic. Just keep the resin wet when you're sanding it, and keep the dust down, and make sure you've got a dust mask on. Otherwise, nothing really to worry about. Take the casting blocks off with the resin. So there you go. But we will be doing more of that, and we've got a 3D printed Matilda that we're going to be building later in the year. So that'll be interesting. So I think that's becoming more important than working with cast resin, because that is definitely taking off as the sort of parts you will see in kits in the future. So you know, the fact that Airfix did a free UFO 3D printed download, it shows you that that's what's coming. It shows you that's the way we're going, and so it'd be really interesting. What we got to be careful of is that we don't lose the build experience of putting multiple parts together to build something. That's the bit I enjoy. I like building models. Once I'm done with them, yeah, I'm done. It's the building experience that I enjoy, not the painting. And some of these 3D models, well, you know, they're removing the build part, which is no longer modelling in my view. Anyway, let's not digress. We've got others to go through. So the next question is from Lee Fennell, also a member. Having just finished the first planking on the Sherborne, how do I go about sanding it ready for second planking? Unless I'm missing something, it's not really covered in the build videos. It seems to be skipped over. Also, would I use glue to fill small gaps before sanding? Good question. So, Lee, yeah, you're sort of right. We did skip over it a little bit on reflection. And what I said in the video was, you fill it, you sand it back, see if it looks smooth, fill it again, sand it back, just keep doing it till you're happy. And it depends on whether you want it completely smooth, like you can't see any plank witness, or whether you want to, don't mind seeing some plank witness, how far you go. I think that's roughly what we said in the videos. So yeah, you're right, I didn't film it. So if you've got small gaps, you can use some form of wood filler for that. If you've got slightly bigger gaps, what you can do is you can take the sawdust from sanding and mix it with a little bit of PVA wood glue, so you've got like a paste, and you can use that to fill the gaps. Gives you something that's similar to sand as the wood, and it fills the gap nicely. So that's another method you could do, which we didn't talk about in the video. It's something we're saving for the next video. So that's quite a common method. If you've got really big gaps, say on the bow where you've had some clinker, and when you've sanded it back it's opened up a gap, there's nothing stopping you putting more wood into there. So taking some strip part and putting it in, fill the gap, make sure it's glued in. Doesn't matter if it's protruding, you can sand it back. On the first planking it really doesn't matter. Second planking will be a lot easier because you've got the full shape done. and you can lie it on and what have you. It's always a little bit more difficult the first planking, so don't worry about it. If you've got gaps, that's the first thing. Fill them any way you need to fill them, really, but your offcuts of wood, wood strip, are really handy for those really big gaps. Just make sure that what you're doing doesn't alter the shape of the hull, which it shouldn't do. So the whole idea of having the bulkheads is that gives you the basic shape, and then you're making it continuously smooth. Your hull shape should be correct. So that's where you are with the sanding. You know what, I use an 80 grit for most of it. You can use a barrel sander at the stern to get the shape in if you find that a bit easier, certainly quicker, but I find it better to finish it with by hand. You don't need to worry about going down the grits and getting it super smooth, because it's just a substrate for the top planks. So 80 grit is about where you want to be for sanding, and any filler you use a wood filler so that's easy to sand as well. And it really doesn't matter if you mix your wood filler with a bit of water and paint it on with a brush and cover the whole thing with filler and sand it back. It really doesn't matter. On the videos you'll see me sort of filling individual areas and then sanding that back, and then maybe filling a few more. If you want to cover the whole hull in filler and sand it back, that's also quite acceptable. It's just a bit more messy that way. So it was keep the sanding dust down, especially for me when I've got expensive camcorder and stuff like that. The more particles I've not got in the air, the better. So yeah, that's really how you tackle it. I hope that helps, Lee. You can always ask questions in the social group. Put some pictures up, and we can support you that way as well. Okay, brilliant. So let's have a look at the next question. Okay, so the next question is from Dafty Duck, and he says, another great table talk, Jason, thanks. No, thank you. My question, is that a brush holder I can see over your right shoulder? That'll be that there then. By the light switch. If so, what make is it, please? Once I noticed that, I started to notice a few other interesting items and wondered whether you could do a short spiel on your bench and what you use to store tools. Many thanks, Phil. Okay, we can do that. We'll do that right now. So yes, it is a brush holder, and the brand is Green Stuff, or Green Stuff World is the website, I think. It's okay. It's not amazing. I have done a tool review on it. It holds multiple brushes, about 100 brushes in total. The one problem you have is trying to keep them straight, I find, is a problem. And you can see these are all off at sort of angles, and it looks a bit higgledy-piggledy. And that, you know, you've got smaller openings at the top, larger openings at the bottom. So your larger brushes at the bottom, the flats and things like that. And then when you get up to the top, you can get 2 or maybe 3 smaller brushes in some of these holes. So yeah, it's okay. It's got a smaller footprint than my other brush holders I've used in the past. But it's still not perfect, and I'm always finding it's in the way. And anyone that watches the channel regularly will see that this sort of moves fairly regularly. So every time I dust and clean, things go back in a different place, and I try a different way. But I'm happy to have a little walkthrough. Now, first thing I'll say is this big unit in the background. If I just take you out, this big unit in the background that you can see here. There is a series of videos of me building it. I had to import this from the USA, and it's been absolutely great. It's not perfect. It's not really aimed at modelers. It's aimed more at crafters and people who craft with paper and materials and things like that. But it seemed to be the right solution at the time. At the time we bought it, we planned to be able to pack this away. So this all folds in, and I can wheel it into the corner so we could get a table out. Only we've never done that. In fact, we've never even bought the table. And so I would probably, on reflection, have done something different because it's not perfect. My position sat here isn't the perfect position. There is space behind the wings, so it's not perfect. So, but it has been a great solution, and I haven't had any issues with it, other than it struggles to hold some of the weight of my paint a little bit. But let's give you a little bit of a tour. So I'm going to put this down and take you very quickly through my modelling bench, and that's probably the last question for this week. Right then, let's do that. I'm coming to get you. So what you're seeing is the whole modelling space, which is part of my kitchen. And you can see it as it's set up for table talk. So when we're on table talk, I'm sat at the bench there, facing my back windows, my back doors, and the tripod is sat as far back as I can get it there, and we're filming from there. And then I have, in the winter, I have a little radiator that is on casters, and I can roll about when I need to. And if we take the chair out of the way, you can see it a bit more clearly. So this space is my modelling bench and also my workstation. So when I'm working from home, which is 4 out of 5 days a week, I am sat here with my laptop here and plugged into my second screen. And when I'm not working, I put the laptop away and it becomes either the computer desk for editing the videos or the modelling bench, whatever I'm doing. So this lamp would normally be swung over here like that. So let's take you through what we've got. So the main backdrop is this cabinet that folds away. So you can see there is 2 wings, and we've got a wing there which folds closed to that wing, which then folds into that and forms half of that, which doubles the depth of this, and then the same on the other side. So I'm going to share some secrets. On the top of it is current builds. Now I'm going to have to be clever about this. So you can see we've got our Scharnhorst there, covered in plastic wrap to keep the dust and stuff off. We've got our Sherborne there, and we've got the Tudor corner that I built earlier this year and haven't had the heart to take apart yet. And then in that white box just on the right is the remaining parts for the Elizabethan paint and what have you. On this end here you can see the Royal Barge, and in between something I'm trying to hide, and I don't know how good a job I've done of it. So everything, with the exception of some of my bigger power tools, are in this area. So if we take you this way and close the pantry door, behind the door I've got things like this, which is for filming when we're doing rigging, and bits that I use to protect the computers when I'm spray painting. So we've got that at the back, and we also end up using it for shopping lists and things like that. When I open this up like so, you can see that I've got thinners, more thinners, various things. So I've got Gaahleri pens and markers and dye and some varnish on here and ink and stuff. Down on this level I've got my cleaning stuff, so I've got a couple of cleaning brushes, my air blower, and I've got a sprue organizer, some spare brushes that haven't been used, and a build jig for aircraft or certain aircraft. Then below that I've got my power tool, so I've got my drill, stand for the drill and the extension flexi cable. Then below that I've got varnishers. Below that I've got my mini vise, my tube cutter, my helping hands. There's usually 2 sets there, but one's on the desk. And then below that on that shelf we've got blue tack, cocktail sticks, and the gap in the middle is for masking tape, which is also on the desk. Now underneath here, so we've got a table here which has got my second computer on, and this table is standalone, so I can pull it out, I can collapse it, I can do what I want. So on this end we've got my build tray for the Sherborne, and that's usually where whatever model I'm working on, the build tray will be there. And then we've got underneath the desk we've got my Lego store, and also we've got the Scharnhorst parts book and 1 or 2 kits that I'm waiting to film and record. And then on here I keep my tools that are for to hand. So this is a dragon's tail. It's really annoying, but it's my only solution at the moment. So this is where I keep my paintbrushes. So when I've used my paintbrushes and I've cleaned them, I put them back on this, knowing that these need to be deep cleaned before they go back into that rack. It's just my way of working. So things I use a lot and I need to keep to hand are all in these little racks. These came from Ultimate. They're 3D printed. There's lots of different solutions around. Just find something that works for you. I mean, some cleaned out baked bean tins would do exactly the same job. You don't have to spend money on it. And you can see I've got purpose-built glue holders and purpose-made out of packing foam glue holders. So yeah, things that I use regularly. So I've got tweezers, pencils and rules, knives, my nutcracker for opening bottles. I've got cutting things, so knives, scissors, paint mixer, glues that I use regularly, cleaning swabs, handful of clamps that I use regularly, my glue applicators, spirit level, which I use quite a bit. Then I've got things like tea pipettes. These ones are all sorted, named for different things. So that one is for my humbrol, for example, some sanding sticks, toothpicks that are in use, that sort of stuff. So that's all on there, and this is very much a working bench. So you can see I've got my little hand tools here as well, and my cutting mats stored here. It's a bit untidy at the moment, but you know, what's and all that. If we go up to here, you can see I've got lots of little drawers with all sorts of stuff in, but they're all sort of paired together. Now these long thin drawers, you can't see what's in them, so I'll put labels on, but those are all my thinners decanted into dropper bottles. Assorted glues, more assorted glues, filler, brush cleaner, tea light, knife sharpening stuff. Here we've got airbrush, so when I'm doing my airbrushing, I take that tray out, everything I need's in there, nice and quick. And I've got some weathering stuff. I've got my face mask and gloves in that tray. My camera for taking photographs and other bits and pieces related. Then I've got drills, hand tools, photo etch, filler, wood filler, pens, pencils and measuring, photo etch, bending, punching, various stuff like that, all in that tray. Paint, so palettes and paint platforms, all in there. Airbrush accessories in there. In here, this is tools waiting to be first impressioned, or products and stuff. In fact, I need to add one into that. Then we've got some empty ones. At the bottom we've got things like plastic bags, packing sponge, stuff like that. Stuff that I use very occasionally, don't need very often, tube paints, that sort of stuff. So I have to move my desk out, this bit of desk, to get to those. So stuff that I use very infrequently. Same with these small racks that go down there. I've got stuff that I use very infrequently in those, but you can see these, which are to hand, have got things like paint pens in and, you know, cable ties and that sort of stuff. So in the center section, we've got all sorts of bits and pieces. So I've got my I've got sponges and baking parchment for my wet palette there, sandpaper, odds and sods, so bottles, liquid gravity, my hand rest. In here, photo etch spares and some resin bits and pieces as well. In here I've got power tool bits and pieces, so Allen keys and various other bits and pieces that I need. Decal tray full of decals that might be helpful that you never really use. Then I've got another weathering tray, got all sorts of stuff in there. Got grass and leaves and paints and stuff. Pastels, decal bits, polishing, safety glasses and stuff. All my soldering stuff's in that one, in a wire drawer, plastic sheet and other sheet materials in that one, and in that one, sponge that I use for masking or packing. Then this tray's got wooden modelling tools in, many of which you've yet to see in action, all sorts of stuff in there. And then I've got spare storage in that top tray, so for small parts and bits and pieces when I'm building. So you'll see I've got some of those in use down there. And that's sort of the middle section. Now, the desk folds up, and underneath the desk we have stuff stored there. I'm not going to show you because it's going to spoil one of the surprises, but underneath there is my compressor, and my power plugs and stuff, and then one or two bits of machinery. On this side here, which is a bit easier for me to get to, I've got my build trays at the bottom. So current builds trays are in there. Then I've got my racks of paints. So generally in paint systems. And you can see I have a problem with taking the weight and the racks fall, and I've still not found a real solution. I really need to put a board across it rather than just the two little runners, I think. Then we've got more wood working tools of various types, plank benders, plank pushers, that sort of stuff, set square, things like that. Then I've got clamps and clamping. Then I've got things for holding stuff when you paint. Got all my bits stored for the shipbuilding jigs. Then I've got small and used sanding. My power sander, display power sander there. And then I've got spare sanding belts and bits and pieces there. Then I've got all my primers up there, and then I've got more sort of weathering, epoxy glue, that sort of stuff in there. On here we've got all sorts of little things. Again, at the top is stuff that I like to keep to hand and use more frequently. So I've got Mr. Surfacer at the top there. New knife blades and knives that I don't use often because they're not on my desk. Saws and saw blades, carving, so I've got my Zimmerite tools in there and old blades and stuff, chisels and scrapers for creating shapes with wood strip and stuff, files and file cleaner, cutting equipment, pencils, lettering pencils, pipettes, screwdrivers, pins and pegs, and then I've got one or two other bits there. At the bottom on this wing we have wax sticks, barrel sanders and polishers and bits and pieces like that, and cotton swabs. Then I've got my pot of nice to be kept clean at all times clamps, so that I look a bit more professional when filming, pegs, mat pins which are used for wooden modelling, bulldog clips and small clips also used for wooden modelling. Then I've got elastic bands, more pegs, bottle tops used for glue, and more bulldog clips used for wooden modelling, but I will show you that in a different video. Then I've got my masking film here, which you saw in the videos of Queen Mary 2. Then I've got my sanding towel, and I've got a tea towel here which I use when I'm spray painting. And then when we go up here a little bit, we've got a couple of notebooks, not telling you what they're for. I've got this is what I use for my photo etch cutting, it's a bit of Korean. And then I've got my flying hours, passports and pot. And then we've got so Mr. Tool Cleaner, airbrush cleaner, rubbing alcohol, burnishing liquid, slow-mo extender and that sort of stuff, Mr. Leveling thinners, decal fix, colour coat thinners, and then lots of white glues. These are basically tall bottles that won't go anywhere else effectively. So I've got some white glues, and I've got my rubbing alcohol and my odourless thinners. Now when we go behind this leaf, so nobody goes behind here but me, if I open this you will see we've got the next Vanguard's build. We've got a Vanguard build to be first impressioned. I've got another kit there waiting for first impressions, and stash ad not showing you. And yeah, that's sort of the setup. So you can see my airbrushes are set up here. So I've got 5 airbrushes there. The rest of my airbrushes are in a drawer. Those are the ones I use regularly. They're all the Gaahleri ones, you'll notice. My expensive ones are in a drawer, don't use them. Compressors down below there, and yeah, there you go. My other compressors down there as well. I've got all sorts of other things, build jigs and stuff like that down there. So that is pretty much it. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the ideal setup, it's my setup. Behind the computer screen I have things that I seldom use, so you'll see I've got some DVDs that I'm currently watching there, and then if we go behind you'll see I've got all sorts of build jigs, scratch building parts, paints and all sorts of stuff behind there. It's hidden and out of view because I don't use it that much. You can see I've got my computers to hand here. I've got all my memory sticks and stuff here, and I keep my magnifying glasses, and then I've got my sanders to hand on this side. But next time you see it, it could be in a different position because I'm always moving it and trying to find something optimal. I'm never quite perfectly happy. And you'll also see that's all my instructions for blocks and threads for the Sherborne. That is my modelling bench at the moment. Well, I think that is it for this week. A big thank you to you all for tuning in and watching the show and keeping up with what's happening in the channel, and for all the continued support. Lovely warm words, questions and shout outs for support and help. It's all greatly appreciated and welcomed, and yeah, I'm having a good time. Hope you're having a good time with it too. So that's it for another week. Next week when we do Table Talk, we'll hopefully have lots to catch up on. Elizabethan will be done, for example, and Sherborne will probably be done, and the Royal Barge, I'm expecting that to be nearly done. So yeah, that's 3 kits we're going to have finished on next week's Table Talk. You mark my words, it's never going to happen. Right, okay. With all of that said, I'm going to edit this video tomorrow. I'll upload it on Friday so that you can watch it Saturday. All of that is time that I could be doing modelling, so you know, just understand how much I'm going out of my way for you guys to see what's going on at Table Talk, at Model Kit Stuff I should say. Right, wherever you are in the world, you enjoy your Saturday, have a great weekend, have a lovely week, enjoy the sunshine. I hope summer's smiling on you guys, and until next time, you enjoy your modelling. Bye for now.